Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview. This is a show where we take a look at what's coming to this week's edition of the North Coast Journal. I am your host, Tanya Shrum, and we are joined by Arts and Features editor Jennifer Fumiko Cahill and our California local journalism fellow, Kelby McIntosh. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. We just had a spicy beverage from downstairs at Taco Town, which just opened up, which you'll hear more from in the coming week. And so we're a little bit flushed. If it looks like we ran here, that's why.
Well, excellent. Well, I hope it's going to give you all the energy to tell us what's coming to this week's cover story. Jennifer, would you like to give us the highlights?
I would so like to give you the highlights. I should start out by saying that my name is on this cover story as the writer, but it's really Mark Larson's cover story because once again, he has gone out and braved festivities. This year is the last year for the Eureka Street Art Festival, which has brought some 100 murals around Eureka from local and international and, nationwide artists that have come here, been actually paid, and painted these incredible things all over town. And this being the last year, we wanted to make sure that we gave it a good send-off. We've frequently had lots of coverage of the festival and its painters and the things that they came up with. But this is the last one, so we wanted to make sure that we, really gave it its due. And Mark Larson went out there, and not only did he go and photograph lots of artists painting the finished works, he talked to people. When you go online to northcoastjournal.com, you can see the full slideshow with his captions kind of explaining who everybody is, what they're painting, etc. He also went on the tour of the Slugs of Eureka. Slugs of Old Town. The Slugs of Eureka is a much longer tour.
That's a much longer tour indeed.
For those of you who garden, yes. Shout out to my daughter's strawberries. Decimated. But I'll get to the slugs in just a minute. So this has been going on for 7 years. And it started, I talked to the 3 women who were the driving force behind it. And, people have volunteered, of course, it's a giant collaborative effort. But the 3 people who really did the heavy lifting all year long are Jenna Katsos, Michelle Cartledge, and Swan Asbury. You may know these names from other spheres. For example, Jenna Katsos is an artist, and you can see her work all over the place. She loves to paint plants. Michelle Cartledge, who has a background in art, also is one of the co-owners of the Humboldt Cider Company, which incidentally loves a little mural painting. If you see the new place, it's covered in mural work, and it's really cool. And Swan Asbury, who works for the city of Eureka, and she kind of is, Eureka's economic development manager. And she has a lot to do with things that promote tourism and that kind of promote, good business for the city. So these 3 got together. Originally, it was sort of Michelle Cartledge's main idea, given her background. She wanted to do some sort of a festival, something to bring people together. I believe Katsos used the word something to uplift the community, where people could look at some art and have a beverage, which is what we got. This year did not have a street party, as the previous years have, partly because it was more dispersed and whatnot. It's been neighborhood by neighborhood. So what these women did was they got permits, they contacted artists all over the world, as well as local artists. They got people to offer their walls. They got people who owned, privately owned buildings. So all of you out there complaining about the view and whatnot. It's private property. People can do whatever they want with their walls. Then they found people to sponsor the artists to paint the walls so that the artists could be paid. You would be surprised what people will ask you to do for free if you're an artist in these parts. But they made sure that these people got paid, and it is labor. So it's really important. So they did all this 7 years. And one of the things that I want to mention about it, it started at Opera Alley. And then they had one in Henderson Center. They did one on the 101 corridor. And, that bridge that when you come into town and you see that beautiful native design over it, that's part of the Street Art Festival. The bridge, under the Samoa Bridge, we had a wonderful cover story on that one. Part of this whole, wonderful kind of revival, the way it brightens a place, it also kind of diverts blight, according to a lot of studies. And that was something that Asbury was really interested in, as a person who's concerned about the city. And it also kind of changes how people look at their own town, right? You have a different sense of the place. You have a kind of pride of ownership in it. It's kind of wonderful. So all this was happening. I do want to point out that when the pandemic period of the Street Art Festival, that to me personally was really important because it was hard to gather. You couldn't really go see art inside. Museums were having trouble. People were trying to figure out, how do we do this, right? There were some outdoor exhibits of work and things like that, but it was a tough time to gather. It was a tough time to look at art. It was a tough time for artists. And that was really, I thought, a wonderful community gathering and a wonderful time, and just a great boost for people to get out of their homes and be able to safely see each other at some distance and enjoy work together. Looking at art by oneself is a very different experience from looking at it in community. And so it was a really lovely thing. And I'm very grateful for that with the whole history of the festival. So this year it went 3D because Shannon Sullivan and Jessica Swan, ceramic artists from the Humboldt area, made 16 big old ceramic banana slugs. And so when you're like walking down the street and you look up at the inn at 2nd and C, don't freak out. It's not real. It's a ceramic slug that may look like it's slithering and curving around the building, but that's how they're built. They found the sites and they custom made the ceramic slugs to fit the locations so that it would be the most natural kind of, how a slug shows up, just clinging to the surface, hunting for your strawberries, you get it. So this whole thing led to a tour that they did, which Mark Larson went on. And like I said, you'll be able to see the pictures. It's really delightful. And the cover shot is one of my favorite things about it because it has 4 local artists, these women who are just enjoying painting together, enjoying painting this massive mural on the side of the Elder Grove School. And yeah, it's been lovely. The reason that they are stopping the festival now, or I should say pausing, is because it's a lot of work. And while the artists get paid, the organizers don't. They donate all their time for this. And that includes all the behind the scenes, communal meals and things like that. That's all stuff that, they work on because they find this important. And so they're going to take a pause from it. They are down to share with anybody who wants to come take it over. So, hey, if you feel like I've always wanted to run the Eureka Street Art Festival, this is your time. Contact them, reach out. Because you know me, I hate drama. Or do I? I love drama. So I asked, what about the blowback? The people who hate murals? Because I see you out there, mural haters. Certainly the electrical box project from Caltrans had its own haters. Let us never forget. But interestingly, Swan Asbury is the only one, probably because she works for the city, who really heard grumblings. But again, she reminded, these are privately owned buildings for the most part. And then also, like she said to me, it's just paint. Like you can paint over it in gray if you want to. You can have it be boring again if you want. And she pointed out that there are other projects too that this group might want to do. They might want to move on and try different kinds of artwork. But it's really lovely, and I think among the things that were highlighted in this issue, there's that one Melita Jackson mural that's around the Eureka Municipal Auditorium, and its theme is suicide prevention. It was done with funding from the Humboldt County Suicide Prevention Network, and it shows all these endangered species that we have in Humboldt that have struggled to survive and make a comeback in the case of the California condor. And it has a message saying, tomorrow needs you. And then it has the hotline information to call 988 for support, for crisis support. It's really lovely to see that combination of something so local, a lot of indigenous influence in the artwork, and also just wonderful, hopeful message for people, and that sort of spirit-saving aspect of art that the Eureka Street Art Festival has really brought forth. So I encourage you to look at all Mark Larson's photos. They'll be up online Thursday, and a lovely job.
And also just to take in the art as you travel around Eureka. I think that it has made it bright and beautiful, and just like Portland, Oregon, on a gray day, it's something nice to look at instead. Well, thank you, Jennifer. We're going to hopefully have enough time to circle back on another very important bit of news in the food world. But I'm going to pivot to Kelby, and he's going to tell us what's going on in the news.
Thank you so much for that introduction. The two of the biggest things for sure going on in the news is the microgrid as well as Measure F. But I wanted to touch on the microgrid just because it's a very remarkable project that's happening. So it's a joint project between Cal Poly Humboldt's Schwartz Energy Research Center, Pacific Gas and Electric Company, and the Redwood Coast Energy Authority. And essentially the Redwood Coast Energy Authority received $88 million in department funding to bring a solar microgrid system to Hoopa, Yurok, and the Karuk tribe members. And from what I understand is that the Cal Poly Humboldt faculty scientists at the Schwartz Energy Research Center, Peter Alstone, who teaches engineering at Cal Poly, said that the residents experience more than over 100 hours of power outages a year, which, for just putting it to comparison, that's wildly off the charts for what you should be experiencing as far as power outage is concerned. So to understand how that impacts residents, so it's had kids miss classes, school, it's had people miss shifts from work. So it's had a really huge economic impact. But also too, from a cultural level, you have to think a lot of these tribal members have cultural based food that spoils when these power outages happen, as well as that's not including members of these tribes that are dependent on electrical equipment for medical reasons too, as well. And being the fact that wildfire season is a thing out here, also too, that impacts the air filtration systems and all these kinds of things. So these outages and this unreliable power system that they have so far, it really has a huge impact on these tribal members. So if the microgrid, when the microgrid comes into fruition, it starts at the Blue Lake Rancheria. So the idea is that they'll use Blue Lake as kind of like a testing ground for this new technology and the concepts that they have, and also to use it as a way to build a workforce for these new technologies more than anything else. And then once they get it figured out through Blue Lake, that's when they'll actually spread it to Hoopa, Yurok, and the Karuk tribes. And all of them will each feature their own solar arrays, power storages, and And a lot of these complex and controls and everything else will be tapped into PG&E's existing grid. And I think the cool thing about this article that really jumped out to me is that it's not just the tribes. Like, this project is can be duplicated, or the best word is replicated, and offer renewable solutions to people out in southern Humboldt as well. So that's so dope more than anything else. If you are really into understanding the energy, and especially out here where renewable energy and these projects are always making waves, it's really dope that something like this is happening more so than ever. Also in the news, Measure F, one of the big things is that the deadline for the campaign to file the disclosure statements just passed, and the findings in Eureka show that the proponents of Measure F, which would likely block the city's current plans to turn municipally owned parking lots into housing developments, have put a ton of money into the race. And they spent almost $400,000 since January 1st, and more than $700,000 total on the campaign. And outspending for the measure's proponents has been 70-1. And all that money has come from one single donor, Rob Arkley's company's Security National. And the filings also have had some additional links to the Yes on Measure campaign and the mystery development escrow to purchase Eureka City's old Jacobs Middle School site. And that's what's in the news.
Thankfully, our superhero, Mr. Greenson, will continue to bring us all of the details.
Do we have a second for something spicy?
I think that we do. I also do want to just say I'm really excited about the microgrid coming to the tribal folks to enhance their sovereignty. And we will shift back over to Jen.
So, something spicy.
Something good and spicy.
Something good and spicy. I was sad when Overtime Pizza shut down at Angelo's, partly because it's a big, perfect space for, all kinds of fun. It had the arcade and everything. Well, someone is moving in, and someone is moving in to do pizza, and it might not be who you expect. It's Tandoori Bites. Tandoori Bites, the only brick and mortar Indian restaurant in Humboldt County. How is that possible? Is going to open up a pizza shop. And if pizza and Indian food sounds incongruous to you, I think that you need a trip to the Bay Area, because apparently it has grown in popularity. And also, it's kind of a perfect fit. I don't know what anybody else is doing with their leftover curries, but listen, does a little sog find its way onto a little non-pizza sometimes at my house? Maybe. I went and sampled a little bit while they're in their tasting phase. And this is kind of a fun era for a restaurant, which is when all your friends and family come and sample what you've made. And so the crew from Tandoori Bites is going to be running the kitchen over there too. So you've got a kitchen making pizza that's mostly speaking Punjabi. It's really fun. They're going to make standard classic Italian American pizzas like pepperoni and cheese, but there will also be some specialty things that have like an achari and a curry, tandoori, and tikka pizzas. And it was a really fun afternoon spent over there with friends and family, mostly Indian American, a couple of folks who come and work on like the gas line and stuff, people that delivery folks and stuff, coming in and trying and giving their feedback. And it's pretty cool. They're going to bring back the arcade part. They're going to keep the pool table and the air hockey table, which, by the way, it turns out that head chef Dilbir Singh, who you have definitely eaten his food over at Tandoori Bites if you've been there, he turns out to be the very silent but champion air hockey player. That man, I was watching him make pizzas. He's very slow. He's very methodical. He's very focused. Doesn't say a word, but apparently a killer on the air hockey table. And there's going to be all kinds of fun new things. This is the only time I want cauliflower anywhere near my pizza, is this spiced Indian cauliflower. It's going to be a really fun development of flavor as they sort of find their feet and get their menu together. So expect that somewhere in the next month or so.
Yes, and if you're not experienced in the Indian pizza, check it out because it's amazing.
Yeah, there was a gentleman there who I think he's in charge of the gas mains or something for the restaurant. And he was trying things, and he ran a slice of the curry pizza over to his wife, who is not a fan of Indian food, and she liked it. So I'm hoping this will not only be fun for the South Asian population and for people who already love Indian food, but also maybe open up some avenues for some folks who haven't tried it before.
Get your palate ready.
Yes.
Okay, well, we got to touch on all of our articles this week. I want everybody to go out and pick up their copy of the North Coast Journal and check it out for themselves. Or, of course, you can go online to northcoastjournal.com. Soak it up, get all of those pictures, and enjoy. And that's our time for this week. So I am Tanya Shrum. Thank you both for being with us and staying informed and supportive of our North Coast community. Have a great week.